Hiya! Welcome to another episode of your most ignored anime review series, Otaku Evolution. I'm Mike, Penguin Truth, and today we're going to finish off the heroic Legend of Arslan OVA. For whatever reason, I suspect either poor sales or catching up to the novels at the time, the 5th and 6th episodes are the final ones, and it concludes with the story unfinished. It doesn't even really end on any note of finality or resolution in sight. For those who've forgotten, Heroic Legend of Arslan is a series of novels by Legend of the Galactic Heroes creator Yoshiki Tanaka. Still waiting for those LOGH discs, Sentai. It's a bit of a fantasy mixed with historical fiction, combining the history of 6th century Persia with more original or archetypal adventure elements. It was adapted most recently into a manga by Fullmetal Alchemist scribe Hiromu Arakawa, which itself was adapted into a TV series. The first season had 25 episodes, and the second had 8. And much like the OVA, the TV series has also failed to conclude the story of the novels, and shows no sign of returning to do so thus far. Come to think of it, I think I stopped watching it after the 4th or 5th episode of Season 2. Not that I didn't enjoy it, I just had better anime to watch, like 91 Days, Dragon Ball Super, and... The story of our hero Prince Arslan, this time pronounced correctly, and his band of soldiers and cads looking to retake the Persian capital of Ekbatana continues after a small history lesson on a legend of an ancient hero who vanquished a wicked foe, which will come into play later. It's interesting to get a foothold in the magical, mythical element of the story, which has so far been somewhat muted. Rajendra, the king of the country of Shindra, and nominal ally to Arslan, sends a message that the country of Turan is planning to attack the stronghold Peshawar, where the prince's forces are based. Arslan's central group assume that Rajendra simply wants assistance in repelling Turanian forces, and balk at first at the notion of reversing their course towards the capital. But they realize they need to prevent the Turanian military from teaming up with the Lusitanians that have the capital. Tactician Narsus sees an opportunity to spread misinformation to the enemy. But before we can get to the battle to come, Gieve, Grand Vizier of Lusitania, visits the Persian king Andragoras in his prison cell. He tries to pump him for information about Silver Mask, who is actually Prince Hermes, the true heir to the Persian throne. Andragoras insists that Hermes is dead, and uses the chance to break free and take Gieve as a hostage. Because Andragoras is awesome.
They've rusted enough to break. Now tell me, royal brother, how are things up on the surface?
Meanwhile, Ferengis...
You idiot.
No, Ferengis, the priestess, leads a group of Arslan's soldiers back to Peshawar. Turanian forces follow them back and attack the stronghold, but a second force with the bulk of the troops attacks from behind. Learning of this, Rajendra is impressed and pleased that a pest to his own forces has been dealt with. With that done, we get to the really good part of the 5th episode, Silvermask raiding the ancient hero's tomb for his magical sword, which was used to seal the Snake King, Zahak. That's funny, I thought Rathamon was the Snake King.
Did you think to grasp a power of set with impunity?
Now, I couldn't care less about whether or not Shar here gets his Star Metal sword, but we get the return of my favorite character, Gieve, the minstrel, lover, and professional troll, who is determined to prevent Hermes from getting anything he wants.
If you really are of royal blood, your actions here belie you. You're not worthy of the privilege. The only one who will possess the sacred sword is Prince Arslan. Only he is worthy. Ruknabard will not be taken to the surface by the likes of you.
That whelp? Don't be absurd.
Silver Mask's lackey also doesn't feel right letting his boss have the legendary item, so he chucks it in a pit, much to Silver Mask's consternation.
You can beat me or kill me. I would not blame you, sire. But the minstrel was telling the truth about the sword. Ruknabard must seal the Snake King. When you become king, sire, then you can return. You can strengthen the seal, sire. Then Ruknabard will be yours to command. Please listen to me, Highness.
With Gieve on the move, it seems Silver Mask is stopped for the time being, and at Peshawar, Arslan's group bides their time. I think episode 5 may have been my favorite episode of the OVA thus far. There's not a whole lot of development in the character department, but with everything so condensed in this OVA, it's practically just the highlight reel of the novels. What I did enjoy was Narsus's tactics, and Gieve's cunning, most of all. It's like having Yang Wen Li and Olivier Poplin in a fantasy setting. Still waiting, Sentai! The final episode of the OVA sees Andragoras use Gizcard as his ticket through Lusitanian forces as he demands his wife and a carriage out of Ekabatana. The Lusitanian leader, this creepy-looking doofus who relies on his brother, insists on challenging the escapee himself, but his subjects know what an incompetent pussy he really is, barely able to hold a sword, so they knock him out as to spare his life, and capitulate.
Once I've crushed your army, I'll come back to that castle for the heads of you and your brother! Don't forget now! It's a promise!
The forces at Peshawar engage in another battle with Turanian forces knocking at their door. Even Arslan helps ward off the invaders. Afterwards, while he commiserates with his colleagues, Gieve arrives, much to his friend's approval. And why wouldn't he be happy? Gieve's way more interesting than the rest of them. At the Turanian camp, an informant passes along to the commander the knowledge of Arslan's forces from the south gathering with the main force soon. Apparently, they were hesitant to take his side at first because he promised to abolish slavery in Pars, but he will apparently let the southern areas keep their existing slaves in return for their assistance retaking the capital. The informant assures his superior that Arslan isn't capable of maintaining his forces himself and would probably be an incompetent ruler. For this report, the informant is paid well and relaxes, fantasizing what to do with his newfound riches. The rest of the Turanians want to share his fortune, desperate to claim a reward of their own. The forces attack at night, but it turns out Narsus foresaw all this in his plans. Some Parsian forces dress as Turanians and lure them into a trap. The combination of Parsian and Shindran troops easily dominate the soldiers from Turan. Naturally, Rajendra gives a self-serving assessment of their situation, having only stepped in at the last minute.
Naturally, as your close friend, I was deeply concerned for you. Not that I was afraid, but I really had nothing to fear after all. Your magnificent troops didn't even leave me the opportunity to strike a glorious blow and cap your victory.
But before Arslan and the team can bask in their success, Andragoras arrives at Peshawar. The King of Pars takes command with authority, and to prove it, denies Arslan permission to see his mother, and sends him on a faraway mission to scrape together more allies, this time without his inner circle.
From this day forward, you are to follow my commands, and your only concern will be regaining your merit.
So, yeah. Andragoras is a badass, but he's also kind of a plain ass, too. He's not going to win any Father of the Year awards. Arslan sets out on his solitary task, only stopping to take a bit of a nap before the long road begins. But he discovers that he's not so alone in his mission after all, because his friends said screw the king and came to help anyway. So the band of battle-tested friends remain together in their quest to take back Pars. The end. No, seriously, the end. That's it, folks. The OVA just stops. Do we discover if Arslan and his troop amass a number of new allies? Do we find out if Gizkar takes the reign from his brother? Are we going to find out if Andragoras stops being a jerk? What about Alfred's clan? Or the Lusitanian girl Esther? Or Silver Mask and the Mystics? Well, we get nothing. Big fat donut. Just like the amount in my Otaku Evolution Patreon. Keep dreaming that dream, Mike. Heroic Legend of Arslan is pretty decent despite its incomplete nature. I especially enjoy the artwork and soundtrack. The characters aren't especially deep, but there was hardly any time to explore them here. I guess I'll have to wait for the TV series to return and wrap up all the story threads. Tanaka finished his novels this year, but Hiromu Arakawa isn't even caught up, let alone the show. Hey, maybe we'll get the novels translated into English sometime, like with LOGH. They could even use the same audiobook narrator for the audiobook version, which they stopped doing after the 3rd volume. I need a little cheering up. But will I be able to get in any reviews before the Christmas episode? I'll try, but if I can't, I'll see you for Christmas. I think you'll like what I've been working on. So until then, see ya!
Halt! Halt! Does that ever work? Has anyone ever really stopped? Shut up!